Have you ever stood at the edge of forever? That thin, invisible line where life meets something else? Something we can't quite name? Today, I'm going to share with you a story that will shake everything you think you know about death. This isn't fiction. This is the real account of a woman who crossed that veil, saw what lies beyond, and somehow came back to tell us about it. Her name is Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old mother of two from Colorado. On March 15, 2023, during a routine surgery, her heart stopped. For 7 minutes and 43 seconds, she was clinically dead. No pulse, no brain activity. And when the medical team finally brought her back, Sarah opened her eyes with a message that would haunt everyone in that operating room. She whispered, "I know what's waiting for us, and it's nothing like we imagined." Sarah remembers the exact moment it happened. She was counting backward from 10 as the anesthesia took hold. 9, 8, 7, and then nothing. But what came next was the most intense something she'd ever experienced. She describes it as a sudden release, like a bird escaping from a cage it never knew it was trapped in. The pain, the anxiety, the worry about her children, all of it vanished in an instant. She felt herself rising, not physically, but in a way that felt more real than physical movement ever had. Here's where Sarah's story takes an unexpected turn. Everyone talks about the tunnel of light, right? But Sarah didn't see a tunnel. Instead, she describes being surrounded by what she calls liquid consciousness. Imagine being immersed in an ocean made of pure thought, pure emotion, pure awareness, colors that don't exist in our visible spectrum. She could sense everything at once, every moment of her life, every person she'd ever met, all existing simultaneously in this vast, incomprehensible space. And she wasn't scared. For the first time in her adult life, she felt completely, utterly at peace. Sarah wasn't alone in that space. She encountered presences, entities made of what she calls concentrated love. Pure consciousness that communicated with her without words. One presence felt unmistakably like her grandmother, who had passed away when Sarah was 12. But it wasn't just her grandmother's personality, it was her essence, expanded and unlimited. This being showed Sarah something profound, that we are all connected, that every act of kindness, every moment of love, creates ripples that extend far beyond what we can see or measure in our physical lives. Then came what Sarah describes as the most intense experience, the life review. She didn't just see her memories, she experienced them from every perspective. Every time she'd been kind to a stranger, she felt their relief and gratitude as if it were her own. Every time she'd spoken harshly to someone, she felt their pain as deeply as they had felt it. This wasn't judgment from an external force. This was something far more powerful, complete understanding of the impact of every choice, every word, every action. In that expanded state, Sarah says she understood everything: the meaning of life, the purpose of suffering, the interconnectedness of all existence. She understood that we choose to come here, to this difficult physical world, because it's the only place where we can experience growth through contrast. Light means nothing without darkness. Joy is impossible to comprehend without sorrow. Love reveals its true power only when faced with fear. And then came the moment that still brings tears to her eyes. Sarah was given a choice. She could stay in that perfect, peaceful space, or she could return to her body, to the pain, to the struggles of human existence. Most people would choose to stay, right? Eternal peace versus human suffering. But Sarah made a different choice. She chose to come back, not because she feared death anymore, but because she'd seen how much her presence mattered, how her love for her children created ripples of light that would extend into generations she'd never meet. Coming back was violent. Sarah describes it as being slammed back into her body with tremendous force. The infinite awareness contracted into a single point of consciousness trapped in flesh and bone. The first thing she felt was excruciating pain. The second thing was crushing disappointment. She had been in paradise, and now she was back in what felt like a prison by comparison. Here's where Sarah's story becomes impossible to dismiss. While she was dead, she witnessed things happening in the hospital that she couldn't possibly have known. She accurately described a surgical instrument that had fallen behind a cabinet in the operating room. She recounted a conversation between two nurses in a completely different part of the hospital. When investigators verified these details later, everything checked out. She had somehow perceived events happening far from her physical body. The medical staff had no explanation. The skeptics had no rebuttal. The most powerful part of Sarah's message isn't about what happens when we die. It's about how we should live. She says that everyone she encountered on the other side had one regret in common. They wished they'd loved more fearlessly, worried less about others' opinions, and understood sooner that the only thing that matters, the only thing we take with us, is love. Not romantic love specifically, but love in its truest sense. Compassion, kindness, connection, service, forgiveness. So I want to leave you with a question that Sarah asks everyone she meets. If you knew, with absolute certainty, that your consciousness continues after death and that you'll eventually review every moment of your life from everyone else's perspective, how would you live differently right now? What would you change? Who would you forgive? What would you finally have the courage to do? Maybe we don't need to have a near-death experience to get the message. Maybe we just need to listen to those who've been there and returned with this urgent whisper. Wake up. Love more. Fear less. You have less time than you think, and more existence than you can imagine. If this story moved you, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. And if you want more content that explores the mysteries of consciousness and existence, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Until next time, remember, you are so much more than you think you are.